recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to our panel. Last year, in meetings in communities across Georgia, even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, in fact, in many cases, because the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated the financial distress in which so many families found themselves, and because the impacts of the pandemic were disproportionate along class and race lines, affordable housing is one of the most consistently raised issues in community meetings. And I'd like to just offer you, Ms. Rice, and you, Mr. Reese, each the chance to offer for this committee as we consider how to build legislation that will be a comprehensive infrastructure and jobs plan over the next couple of months. What do each of you please believe are the one or two most important considerations or policy objectives which may currently be neglected in the prevailing discourse around this bill as we craft it, as it relates to affordable housing and equity, race and class equity, and access to affordable housing? And I'd like to begin with you, Dr. Rice, please.
Senator Ossoff, thank you so much for the question. So I have a litany of things, but I'll only mention two. One is to make sure that we're addressing both supply and demand side issues in the infrastructure bill. It's critically important, and one of the things I do want to lift up is that in every state in America, we already have an existing sort of cadre of naturally occurring affordable housing, but much of it is not in pristine condition. And so we need laws like the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act, which we're championing to be enfolded into the infrastructure bill to help build up the infrastructure of naturally occurring and already existing affordable housing across the country. But we have to address those supply side issues, but we also have to address the demand side as well, because if we don't, we will just be further exacerbating inequality. We have to make sure that marginalized communities are able to access these new affordable housing opportunities that will be coming online via the infrastructure bill. The second one is we have to make sure that we're paying attention to the already existing inequitable landscape on top of which this infrastructure bill will be unfolded, right? We did not pay attention to that with the implementation of the CARES Act, and that's why the CARES Act ended up exacerbating inequality and the wealth divide. So we have to take that into consideration to make sure that we're building equal access to these opportunities in the infrastructure bill.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rice. And Dr. Reese.
Thank you, Senator. I would completely agree with Ms. Rice's comments. Going back to an earlier discussion today, I do think the proposals like the Livable Communities Initiative could be very profound in assuring that alignment in transportation infrastructure and housing infrastructure. In addition to that, I think as we think about housing, we have to understand and realize the importance of the social side of housing. Expanding HUD's self-sufficiency program even further, I think would be a beneficial step in helping prepare families to potentially even step out of the existing affordable units into home ownership into the future, as well as to prepare them financially to economic shocks that could come in the future, just like we've dealt with the COVID pandemic. I was evaluating a housing mobility program just recently where coaching and social support were critical to help families avoid losing their housing, even though most of them lost their employment due to the recession following the pandemic. So these types of programs, even though they're not as often seen as important as, say, big transportation projects, they're critical to the sustainability of families within these housing units and to their development and ability to access home ownership later.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. And Ms. Rice, with the little time I have left, I think you touched upon the importance of the quality of the affordable housing stock. I was recently meeting with community leaders in Albany, Georgia, and for homeowners, without discretionary income, there's unrepaired damage from natural disasters that's a decade old. How would you propose Congress ensure that communities like Albany can invest in retrofitting and upgrading damaged housing stocks, because the quality of a family's housing has a huge impact on quality of life, state of mind, opportunity?
Sure. The Neighborhood Home Investment Act, Senator Ossoff, is specifically designed to address that issue, right? Where we have people who are living in housing that is not in pristine condition, but they need a little bit of gap because, as we know, when you sometimes you need more work done into the home than what the market value of the housing can bear. And so the Neighborhood Home Investment Act is specifically designed to provide that gap, to sort of bridge the gap so that consumers can get the sufficient funds that they need in order to upgrade their housing.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Thanks to the panel. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Ossoff. Senators Tester, Warren, Sinema, Warnock, Shelby,